While Juneteenth is a vitally significant fixed point along the extended timeline of the greater Black experience, representing as it does the collective liberation and independence of Black people, likewise on that same timeline is 1,000 times 1,000, a myriad individualized Black experiences of liberation, independence, success and triumph over oppression and adversity. 1,000,000 times 1,000,000 individualized experiences, each one significant in its own right. I knew an individual once who, in addition to many special character traits, embodied 3 pronounced distinctions. She was a woman. She was Black. She came into this world a Black woman. And as you can imagine, she faced a few obstacles, a few challenges because of this. Now, her Black heritage was furthermore augmented by the fact that she was born in Puerto Rico. Yes, she was Black Puerto Rican. She was from the East Coast. Black Puerto Rican. She spoke fluent Spanish. Not the sort of Spanish that they speak over in Spain, no, but Mexican Spanish. The sort of Spanish that they would speak south of the border in Mexico and in the Americas overall. Yes, she spoke that fluently. And I can tell you that she put that bilinguality to especially good use. You see, whereas the finger of racism is more often than not pointed directly at whitey, I am here to tell you that in Mexican, Hispanic, Latino, Chicano quarters, there are some elements which are absolutely seething with racist bigotry. There just are. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but aw shucks, gee whiz, I just did. And she used to have to deal with that racism, with that bigotry. She used to have to encounter it, sometimes on a daily basis. Every now and then, she would run into a couple of fools who, seeing her and judging her by her complexion, by her appearance in general, would stand there trash-talking her in Mexican Spanish, never dreaming that she could understand every single word. And she would stand to one side listening, giving them just enough verbal rope with which to hang themselves, and then she would let loose with a sizzling volley of their own tongue, lashing it right back at them 10 times over. And they would stand there, stupefied, dumbstruck, practically voiding their own pants, because they couldn't fathom that she could comprehend what they were saying. And then they were broken-hearted, because they could no longer cower behind the safety of their own language. Every day, she used to have to encounter that. With those 2 salient distinctions in addition to the third. You see, the third prominent distinction is that this woman, this Black woman, was the better part of 400 pounds. She was a big lady. And when you are an individual of proportionate size, you're going to encounter a whole new brand of discrimination, of callousness, of insensitivity, of hateful behavior. But she survived, she made her way, she persevered the best that she could as a very large Black woman. She took it all one day at a time. And one day, she had to take a crosstown bus. An incredibly crowded crosstown bus, where there was only 1 seat left in the entire vehicle, and she saw it as she was coming down the aisle. And just like Rosa Parks, all she wanted to do was sit down, because her feet were tired and she wanted to go home. Now, as you know, not unlike an airplane, on a bus, the seats, they're basically bench seats. They're 2-seaters. There's one next to the window, and there's one on the aisle. And there was an aisle seat that happened to be open, and she was heading for that. Last one on the whole bus. Well, sitting in the window seat in that same bench seat construction was this scrawny, greasy little Mexican schmuck. And he looked up and he saw her coming and their eyes locked. And in that millisecond, she could see the expression on his mug mutate into a look of pure disgust, disdain, scorn. He conveyed to her all of this prejudice, all of this bigotry in that one look. And then he decided to deal with the forthcoming impasse in the following way. You ever see that Tom Hanks movie, Forrest Gump, where as a little kid and then later as a drafty recruit, probably going over to Viet goddamn Nam, he's getting on a school bus and later an army recruitment bus, and there's plenty of seats as he's making his way down the aisle, but everyone we encounter does this. Taken, taken. This seat's taken. Someone else is sitting here. This is occupied. Taken, taken, taken. That's what that crumb did. He takes his grubby little paw and, in a manner that's almost dainty, he sets it down on the seat beside himself. Then he looks out the window and sniffs. And she had to stand there and see that, experience that, and more to the point, feel that. You see, that's the kind of affront that transcends mere insult, mere offense. That's the kind of affront that goes right for your feelings. It hurts the feelings. It rips them out of a person and leaves them raw and exposed and vulnerable. And this, piled on top of every other indignation, every other humiliation, every other point of oppression that this woman had to encounter. Well, as you can easily imagine, there was only one viable course of action left to her, especially in the face of such contemptuous hostility. She held her head up high. She turned the other cheek. She turned herself around in the aisle and then sat right down on his hand, all 400 pounds of her. She even bounced up and down a few times, just for good measure. You see, as a large black woman in this world, she had developed a little bit of a mean streak over the years, just to get by. And boy, did it come in handy at a time like that.